Hello, my name is Violet Bender, and today I will be talking to you about why student lunch debt is unethical. Imagine you are 11 again, at elementary school, and the bell rings for lunch. You hurry with your friends in order to get your hot lunch, only to be told that you cannot have a hot lunch today because you have a negative account balance. And one of the most nerve-wracking things to hear as a kid when I was a kid, especially growing up in a low-income family, is hearing that you can't have lunch because your parents didn't have enough money for you to eat at school. And so today, I will be persuading you to believe that student lunch debt is unethical and should not exist. And I will also be persuading you of some of the various reasons student lunch debt is a tactic to prey on low-income families, and there are ways to eliminate student lunch debt within school districts. First, I will persuade you to convince you of why students should not be penalized for not having enough money for lunch. And then next, I'm going to persuade you that all meals at school should be free, including breakfast, lunch, and dinner, depending on how long the student stays at school. And then finally, I'm going to provide you with ways to eliminate student lunch debt within schools and ways you can help in your community. Children are not responsible for their parents' finances, and they should not have to suffer due to their parents' finances, especially when it comes to paying for lunch at school. Children spend an average 7 hours a day at school with a 30-minute lunch break in between. That's not a lot of time to eat lunch, and even then, they can still be denied lunch if they have an account balance. And according to an article about student lunch debt written by Gretel Kaufman, a cafeteria worker was forced to refuse lunch service to a student, and she later quit her job for doing so in protest of student lunch debt because she believed it was incredibly wrong to deny student lunch. Just because they don't have enough money. The cafeteria worker stated that there's enough wealth in this world that no child should go hungry, especially in school. To me, that is just wrong. According to the Washington Post, more than $500,000 in Washington, D.C. is owed in student lunch debt in surrounding school districts, and that's just in 52 schools in the Washington, D.C. school district. In many cases, students are denied a hot lunch after having a negative account balance and are normally handed a piece of bread with cheese on it and just a carton of milk or a bottle of water. The National Lunch Program provides free and reduced lunches to millions of U.S. students, but the debts accumulating show that it isn't benefiting nearly as many people as it should. And according to the Washington Post, in order to qualify for free and reduced lunch, a family of four must make under $32,630 a year. It's not a lot of money for a four-person family. And although some students do qualify for free and reduced lunches, others do not, and that's the problem with the poverty line. And these students should not be penalized for their parents' financial struggles. 10.5% of Americans fall within the poverty line. And according to another article written by the Washington Post, New Jersey students can be banned from their graduation and prom if they do not pay off their lunch debt. Donations have been made to counteract the lunch debt, but they have been denied to protect the privacy and the rules of the school district and to benefit the school district by taking money from their students. It is also very difficult for school districts to figure out a way how to remove student lunch debt without it being controversial, just because it can be a balance between rich and poor families, and sometimes they might wonder why they have to pay for lunch while others don't. Children are shamed in school and bullied for not having money, primarily in low-income communities of people of color, especially in Black communities. According to the Philadelphia Tribune, the charity Philando Feeds the Children sent a $35,000 check to cover the student lunch debt in the St. Paul area. Philando worked as a school nutrition worker until his fatal encounter in 2016 with a police officer. He was on national news, and in his honor, they made a charity that benefited the students that he was personal with. And it goes to show that children of color are treated very unfairly for their poverty levels and their food restrictions. So far, I've illustrated the negativity and destructiveness of student lunch debt and why it should be abolished. And next, I will give examples and demonstrations for how to abolish student lunch debt in communities. Students spend 7 hours a day and are giving a free bus ride as well as free textbooks to use at school, so how can we make it possible that students also receive free meals as well? Donations through a community make it possible to alleviate and possibly eliminate student lunch debt in school districts, and according to the Washington Post, a school district in Montgomery, Alabama is trying to raise $300,000 to wipe out student lunch debt in their community. Other school districts in America have completely eliminated student lunch debt by reevaluating their budgets within the schools, and Maryland passed legislation to cover the cost of student lunch debt and to eliminate it completely. So they went through their entire state legislation. It's a big deal there. Calling your state or city representative is a great way to put out the ideas to eliminate debt or brainstorm ways to resolve it in some way. Today, I've persuaded you to believe that student lunch debt is unethical and harmful to a child's growth and benefits in a school day. First, I mentioned how students are often denied a hot lunch or lunch in general if they have a negative account balance at school. And then I informed you of the ways that students who have to be penalized for their financial struggles, especially prom and graduation, shouldn't be because they're not responsible for their parents' struggles. And lastly, I gave examples on how to reduce student lunch debt in your area by getting involved with local politics. There are definitely times where families who can afford to pay for lunch at school may not understand why some families are getting free or reduced lunches while they don't, but that is because they can afford it, while low-income families are often living paycheck to paycheck. Students who come from low-income households qualify for free or reduced lunch, belonging to a category of about 40% of America. And as a child who was once poor, I also faced times where I did not get to have lunch, and there were times where people took pity on me and gave me lunch, but it was very embarrassing. Students go to school to learn, and for many is an escape for their reality at home, where things may not be as stable or as pleasant as they are at school, and taking a child's lunch away is embarrassing and unethical towards low-income families. Food is a basic human right, and we shouldn't take that away from a child who is simply trying to learn in school because their parents are having financial struggles. Children should not be penalized for something that is out of their control. And I urge you to contact your local representatives to find out how you too can combat food insecurity within schools in your area. Thank you.